Welcome back to the Healing Hotline. I'm your host, Jessica Trambarger, and today we're going to be talking about the law of sacrifice. Because if you ain't making no sacrifices, that's probably why you're still stuck where you're at. Let's get into it. I've had to make so many sacrifices on my spiritual path, okay? Anytime you're trying to manifest something, there is an equal exchange that needs to be given to the universe. And most of the times, you don't really get to pick what this sacrifice is, because when we try to pick the smallest things that we don't think, oh, okay, I'll sacrifice this thing. This isn't really too big for me. And the universe is like, that's not an equal exchange. We need a little bit more. So let me just tell you some of the things that I've had to sacrifice and the things that I've gotten in return, so you can kind of see that it was worth it. A lot of my sacrifices have been with my friendships and my pets. And really the reason for this has always been that these people were just no longer in alignment with me. It doesn't always necessarily mean that these people are bad people. You've just outgrown them. Or for me, honestly, I have seen that these people were not who I thought they were at all. I can be very naive. That's a big reason why I like to use my pendulum, is because I know that I can be naive. I don't see the people for who they are. I see them for their greatest potential. And that's a problem, because a lot of people don't live up to their potential. And I've said that before on this podcast, but it's very true. A lot of people don't live up to their potential. So seeing people for who they can be is a blockage, because you're not seeing what they're presenting to you, and you're letting a lot of things slip past the boundaries that you're supposed to have up. So one of the first major sacrifices that I had to make, and this was really to get my business up and running, was my relationship with my best friend. And this, honestly, this hurts till this day. And I don't know if I'm feeling her hurt or feeling my hurt. I think I want to say it's her hurt, but that's really, I feel like that's my ego. It's my hurt. It's my hurt. This is somebody that I thought that I was going to be friends with forever. This was the first friend that I made while I was out here in Texas. And really one of the only friends that I made out here since I've been out here in Texas. But, I loved this girl so much, so freaking much. I really don't want to cry, but this is the first time that I've ever talked about it. And like I said, this shit hurt. This shit hurt. Out of all, I done cut, y'all, I don't think y'all understand. I done cut my dad off, my mom off, my sister off. I done cut off so many people. I let go of all of my pets. But this one hurt. This one hurt so bad, because I really thought that, she was actually my friend. And when it came down to it, she really wasn't. And it kind of showed when, I ended up cutting her off. But essentially, I'm trying to ask my pendulum, I'm like, am I supposed to talk about this? They're like, yes, girl, get this shit off your fucking chest so you can move the fuck on. I really think I need this fucking closure, really. But I'm trying to think what happened. Okay. So this was not really the first falling out that I had with my best friend, though. This was actually the second one. The first one was her and I had a dog training company together, and we would do dog boarding. But since I lived in an apartment, I couldn't actually have the dogs at my place to board them. She was renting a house at the time, so she was able to have the dogs over there. And basically we would just split the profits or whatever. But one day I came over to her house, and there was some dogs there that she did not tell me that were gonna be there. So essentially she was just keeping the money to herself and wasn't gonna tell me. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck? But she didn't know how to tell me, because she just felt like, she should have kept the money, because she was the one who was really doing the work, which is actually understandable. But the fact that you didn't tell me, that shit rubbed me the wrong way. So after that was the first time that I stopped talking to her for a little bit. But I don't quite remember what happened. We started talking again, but this girl could hold a grudge, okay? This girl could hold a grudge. She reminds me a lot of my aunt, and my aunt could hold a grudge too, okay? So I had always felt this like lingering feeling of her not fully trusting me after that, you know? So I think it was during this time that we weren't talking that she made a new friend, or I think she already knew this girl or whatever, but it was like this girl, really pretty girl, and she was just all up her ass. My best friend at the time, she was all up this girl's ass because the girl's really pretty, and I think she just really wanted to be in with that girl and her friend group or whatever. So like she would always come over to the girl's house, and she would like do stuff. She would like go take care of her baby for her while she like took a nap, and like she was just doing all this extra ass shit. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Like, you're tripping, like you're doing too much. But she was all up this girl's ass. So when we started talking again, it was different because she was like, oh well, I've been hanging out with this person. So it was like I was no longer just her only friend, and that really changed the dynamic. I think because it was like I felt like a little bit of like, damn, like it's crazy because like the way I really wanted her to like be to me, she was to that girl, and the way that I'm sure she wanted that girl to be to her, she was to her. I don't know if that makes sense, but like basically she was all up that girl's ass. I wanted her to be all up my ass. I was all up her ass. It was a lot of up people's asses, okay? So I was in the process of buying my home at the time, and it was a really struggle because like I had stopped being a cam girl where I was making a shit ton of money, and I was really just praying to spirit that I would still get the house or whatever. And then I did end up getting approved to the house, but basically one day my best friend came over and she was like telling me that she was talking to that girl that she was friends with, and she was like, yeah, like she was basically saying that like she didn't believe that you were getting the house by yourself. Like she thinks that you have like some type of co-signer or something like that. And the way that she said it was like almost as if like she was asking me like, is that true? And I was like taken aback. I was like, fuck you mean? Like, bitch, you fucking know I've been working my fucking ass off for this shit. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, no, like, what the hell? Like, so that right there was like a major, major, major red flag, right? So basically, like, I was just figuring out how I was gonna make my pendulums, and like nothing was coming out right. Like, the glue wasn't setting. Like, it was just, everything was just weird. Like, it just wasn't, it should have been like really easy for me to get this shit going, but it was difficult. And I was like, okay, there's definitely a blockage. So I asked my spirit team, like, okay, what is the blockage? Like, what do I need to do to make this shit work? Because I know that there's something that's preventing it from working. And my spirit team was basically like, told me that I had to cut this girl off. And I was like, wait, what do you mean that I have to cut her off? And they're like, you need to cut her off. She's not a real friend. Like, you think that she's your real friend, but she's really not. And like when they said that, basically I got the conversation came up in my mind again about when she brought up the fact that like that girl, supposedly that girl didn't really believe that I got the house by myself. And I was like, yeah, she definitely be talking about me, you know, to this girl and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, I blocked her on everything, and she never reached out. And I know I said I blocked her and everything, but you can still email, you know, like, I don't know, like if my best friend, like if I couldn't get a hold of my best friend, I would definitely try to email or something. Like I would be like, oh, okay, what the fuck, you know? Because there are people that I have cut off that weren't my best friend that have went the email route trying to get to me, okay? So she just never tried to reach out or anything like that. And I say, you know what, that must be confirmation that what I was thinking is really the truth. And it really just hurt me because I wanted it to not be true so bad. I wanted her to fight for me, I guess. I wanted her to like at least try to reach out and stuff, and she never did. And what hurts the most is that like now I'm back in the area of like where she lives, and I passed by her parents' house, not intentionally. Her parents' house is very easy to spot when you're on the main road, but like I don't know. I wish that the universe could bring us back together again, but I know that's just like that's a silly wish. I feel like that's just my inner child really wishing. Really is my inner child because I never really had any friends growing up and stuff like that. But I know that she would never forgive me for cutting her off. You know, she holds grudges, like I said. But that was one that hurt me the most. But after that, after I cut her off, my business did start taking off. I was actually able to put my pendulums in a crystal shop, and I'm not in that crystal shop anymore, but at the time it was something that was really good for me. I got a job at that crystal shop. Things really started to pick up, and I think that hurt too because I was like, damn, like she really was a blockage for my business, bro. And that is the law of sacrifice, is essentially like there is always something that needs to be sacrificed when you're asking for something to happen. And if you feel like nothing's happening in your life, there's something that is needed to be given up. And you don't really get to choose. The universe knows like what's really in these people's hearts. They know your spirit team, your pendulum, your highest self, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same. It knows the conversations that happens behind your back. It just knows all of these things. And the biggest thing that it knows is who is really supporting you and who is jealous of you. And what y'all don't realize is that jealousy and envy is like a really big block. It can create a lot of obstacles for you if somebody else is hating on your shit. So I knew that, you know, I knew that there's so many things that I see now that I'm like, oh yeah, that definitely wouldn't have worked. Like she was trying for a baby with her husband, and I don't even think that, I'm pretty sure she doesn't have a kid yet, you know, but I now have a kid. So it's just like all of these things where I'm like, I know she would be so fucking jealous and just sending that evil eye energy my way. And I definitely did not want that around my baby. So I see why things had to happen the way that they did. It just kind of sucks because I thought, okay, maybe if I let this go, then the universe will replace her with somebody else. But after long looks in my birth chart, I have seen that that's not going to happen. Friendship is one of the things that I unfortunately cannot really have in this lifetime. Not true friendship, anyways. I can have acquaintances, I can have people that I really fuck with from a distance. When it comes to that friendship of like really hanging out, going over to each other's houses, being all up in each other's energy like that, it just doesn't work. I have a placement in my birth chart that, and unfortunately, makes a lot of people jealous of me. And you know what? It is what it is. It's whatever. I see it for what it is. And I'm like, okay, you know what? As long as I can have love, like with my husband and my baby, like my love and my chosen family and money, I'll give up the friendship. Fuck it. You know, because when you really think about it, nobody in the world has everything that they want. There are people with a shit ton of money that don't have real love. There's people with a shit ton of love that don't have real money, but they got friendships and they got, they got all this other shit. There's always something that's missing for somebody. And for me, it has to be friendships. And I'm like, you know what? You said I could have money though, and I could have love, and I could have my chosen family. Okay. I'll let it go. So that's a sacrifice. And that's a big sacrifice. So that was what I had to give up for my money, for my business to start, blossoming. Then I had to give up all of my pets. Not all at the same time. It was all gradual, one by one. But I had to give up my pets for a happy life with my baby, and in order for me to be a good mom, because I cannot handle too much responsibility. I also have karmic debt number 14, which if you haven't already, you should check out my videos on YouTube or on TikTok. It's in the numerology playlist, but I'm talking about how to calculate if you have a karmic debt number. And this will tell you a lot about your life if you do, and why you experience certain things that you do. But I have karmic debt number 14, which is essentially like my freedom be feeling restricted a lot of the times, and too much responsibility is really overload for me. And I realized that me having pets and having a baby was just not gonna work hand in hand, you know? One of the hardest giving up of my pets was with my cat, Kovu, my sweet boy. I had to give him up after we took in a stray cat, which never, ever, ever taken a stray cat. We fucked up and we did that shit. We took in a stray kitten. It was in our neighborhood just meowing. It wasn't even meowing at our fucking door. But my husband heard it meowing when he was outside, and he was like, went to go follow the meow, and it was like a couple doors down. That should have been the biggest fucking sign, was that it was not meowing at our house, okay? But we took it in, and we didn't think that like my cat was going to have a problem with it, because I had another cat before him and they had lived together for some time. So he's already been around another cat. I didn't think it was going to do anything, but apparently he has jealousy issues just like his mama, okay? Because I did struggle with jealousy. I'm pretty good on it now. But I struggled with jealousy for a long fucking time. And they say that the pets are like their owners, and this was very true for him. So when we brought in this cat, he turned into a whole different animal. He started doing weird ass shit. He was pissing in places he was not supposed to piss. He was just doing weird shit. He was like peeing in the dog bed. He was peeing in the cat bed. He would just start like meowing, like, but like it was like scary, like meow, like meow. And he would just hold it, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, he literally went psycho. And I thought, okay, first let me get rid of this fucking little shit, because this little kitten was fucked up, okay? This little kitten had me fucked up, and I was pregnant as fuck at the time, and this kitten scratched me the hell up. Like, I got into a wrestling match with this fucking kitten, and right then and there, I called my husband, and I said, we're getting rid of this kitten tonight. We're gonna drop it off somewhere, okay? And we try to go to some shelters, but here's a fucked up thing about shelters, and I really want y'all to remember this anytime you see a stray animal, or anytime you see someone leaving an animal somewhere because they're trying to just get rid of it. These shelters don't help for shit. And the unfortunate part is that most of the time it's because of they're full. And it's because people are not really fully aware of what it really takes to have an animal. But they would not even take in this kitten, okay? This kitten, and I was trying to pretend like this wasn't my kitten. I found it. They didn't care. So we ended up just we went to like a parking lot that was like by a church, and we just had to drop it off there. And I know, oh, that's so terrible. Let me tell you, I fucking know, but this kitten was feral, okay? I actually think I did the world a service by not putting it in the shelter, because it would have fucked somebody else up. So yeah, we had to get rid of the cat, and I got rid of the cat, and I thought that my cat was gonna be normal again. Like, okay, we're good. That cat is gone. Cool, right? You're gonna go back to being the sweet boy that I know. No, he was still fucked up. And it was then that I was like, okay, I think we gotta get rid of him too. And at the time, we had two dogs. One of them was a Rottweiler named Malachite. Never name your dog after a crystal, especially not a crystal like malachite, okay? Because that dog really became the physical manifestation of that crystal. It was quite literally insane. A lot of transformation, but at a price of a lot of destruction, okay? So that dog was driving me crazy my whole fucking pregnancy, and he was really stressing me out, and that's not good when you're pregnant. So I had been telling my husband, like, we need to get rid of this dog too. Like, a lot of this shit gotta go. I was like, we gotta get rid of this dog. And he was very hesitant. He was not trying to do it because this was his first dog. Okay, like the other dog that we had, she's I had her before we were even together. So the Rottweiler was technically his first dog. But I was like, dude, we have to get rid of this dog. He is like mentally disturbing me, and this is not good for me. It's not good for the baby, you know? And he was very reluctant to do that. So I knew that by me leading by example and being able to give up my cat, he was going to be able to give up his dog, okay? Now, this is the part that breaks my heart with how I had to give up my cat because, like I said, we had just been to shelters. These shelters would not take in a kitten. So I knew that they weren't going to take in my cat, who was, I forgot how old he was, but he was old. He was an older cat, not too old. He was like maybe like 5 or 6 or something like that. And I knew I was gonna get the same reaction, if not worse. They'd been like, hell no, we're not taking the grown ass fucking cat in. What the fuck? So, don't y'all? Some of y'all gonna judge me for this, but you know what? Please, I'm gonna tell you right now. Don't judge me unless you wanna be put in the same predicament and step in my shoes, okay? Because the universe don't play about me. So I'm gonna let you know right here, right now. You try to talk slick, you try to you try to judge me or whatever, you're gonna be put in the same predicament or maybe even worse. Did I just spell you? Maybe, you know. But anyway, so we put my cat. I put my cat in a carrier. So, and I put my cat in a carrier and we went to a super, super nice area. We went to Rice Village, which is by Rice University. It's a really nice area. And I left him in the carrier and I left the carrier by like the stairs of an apartment. Because I knew that if I were to leave him there inside the carrier with the carrier closed, right where people were going to be coming in and out, I knew somebody was going to see him and they were going to know, like, wait, this cat is not like a stray cat. But if I would have like let him loose out there, one, he don't know how to navigate the streets. He is a straight indoor cat. And two, he might have got hit by a car or something. Like nobody was going to take him as a cat that like, oh, I need to like do something with him, right? So, yeah, I left him there and I cried. Even my husband cried. Like we both cried. That was fucking hard. But that was really the only thing that I could do because I could not. He turned into a little demon. He literally did. I don't know what other way to describe it. He was not himself anymore. And there was just no way that it was going to be able to work to keep him. And so, yeah, so I had to do that. And then I know he did get found because he was microchipped, but it was to I never updated my phone number. It was like to an old phone number. So they sent me an email, but unfortunately, I had to ignore the email. But yeah, he did get adopted out somewhere because I was like keeping tabs on the adoption thing and seeing if he was still up on the website for adoption, and he did get adopted, so I know that he did find a home. So I made that sacrifice, and then my husband was able to get rid of the dog. And actually, we found one of his friends, one of my husband's friends from high school, had another Rottweiler, so he just took him in. He was like, "Hell yeah, I'll take him in," and he's really happy over there. He literally made an Instagram page for him and everything, so it's kind of cool because we still get to see him every so often on Instagram. And I don't know if we'll ever see him again in person though, but because my husband's not like that close with the dude. But yeah, that was a happy ending for the dog, thank goodness. And then if you heard the previous episode or the episode before this, I forgot which episode it was. Oh, if you heard that, if you listen to the episode about healing my mother wound, then you'll know that like the final dog that I had, we did get rid of her too, but she didn't go too far. I actually saw her recently and she's doing really good, so that made me really happy. It made me really happy to see her again. So that was a couple sacrifices that had to be made. Another reason why I actually had to get rid of my cat, besides him going crazy, was that one of the readers that I had went to, she had told me to be careful with him. Like, she was like, be careful with your cat around your baby. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, my cat is really sweet. Like, what do you mean? Like, what would he do with the baby or whatever? And she was like, well, basically, like, some cats have been known to get really jealous and like suffocate the baby. They will just sit on the baby's face and they will suffocate the baby and kill the baby like that. And I thought, like, wow, that's crazy as fuck. Like, I didn't believe it because I was like, no, like, he's like a really sweet cat. He would never do that. Like, what the heck? Like, what the fuck? But then when I brought the other kitten in and I saw how he acted, that was the universe showing me, yes, he fucking would, because he got so jealous of that other cat. Imagine how he would be to a baby. It's the same thing essentially, because I was giving my attention to that cat because the cat was a little kitten. I had to bottle feed it. It was like a baby. So I knew that that was like another reason why I definitely did have to get rid of my cat. It was like one of the things that the universe was like, I'm going to show you this way so that you don't have to learn a very hard lesson another way. Because if anything would have happened to my baby, oh my God, like, oh my God, you know? So I'm really grateful that I learned the lessons the way that I do, even though they're really hard lessons. A lot of the lessons that I learn are through my pets. Like, for example, that dog Malachi, he taught me that whoopings are not going to work. And up until before I got him, I thought that, like, oh yeah, when I have my kid, like, if my kid acts up, I'm going to whoop my kid. But when I would whoop that dog, my hand would always hurt in some way. Like, I would always hurt myself whooping that dog because that dog was bad, bro. And I always had it ingrained in me that, like, how I got my dog trained, my first dog trained was I whooped her. Like, when she acted up, I whooped her and then she acted right, you know? So it was like, it was a corrective type of thing that I was doing, which obviously I know there's better ways to train, but like I said, I was brought up where if you do something wrong, you're gonna get hit, you know? So that was like the generational trauma that I was putting out. And I learned with that dog that whoopings, fuck no, I'm not whooping my kid. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what she does. I'm not whooping her. Unless she's a teenager and she hit me, well, I'm not whooping her. We fighting. You know what I mean? But it's just not going to happen because I'm not even setting up the environment for that. You know what I mean? So that was like a major. That was a shit ton of sacrifices that had to be made both on my end and my husband's end. And it brought us a lot of peace. So that's the thing, is that your peace always comes with a price. Okay. I've had to give up a lot of my friendships. I say a lot. I've had to give up every single one of my friendships. I have made really good spiritual friendship connections after I had ended things with my best friend, and my pendulum would just tell me every so often, like, these people have to go now. These people have to go now. And I would feel it, you know, like I had said in the episode of me saying, like, how to know when to cut somebody off. I would get anxiety with these people. When they would text me, I would get a feeling of anxiety. And I'm like, damn, you're next. I already know you're next, you know? So, when I cut off my sister, I got my business. Unfortunately, that's what had to happen because she was also somebody that was very envious and jealous of me. And it's not necessarily her fault. It's really just, I would blame it on my parents. I feel like a lot of siblings do have jealousy towards each other, and it comes from the parents because they, at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, I should say, the beginning of it all was that they were always kind of like fighting for the parents' attention or the parents' affection. And the fucked up part is that usually none of them gets it. So they just, but the cycle of jealousy and envy just continues on into other things, you know? So there were a lot of things that I was doing that, you know, my sister was envious of, and I didn't see it at first, but there was a time where my nephew came over to the house that I had bought, and big ass fucking house, okay? And while he was there, he said something. He's like, yeah, because you're broke. And I was like, the fuck? What the fuck did you just call me? You just call me broke? He's like, yeah, because you're broke. And I was like, no. What the fuck? I'm like, why would you say that? And he just, he didn't have no explanation or whatever. But I knew it was because my sister had called me broke in front of him, because I don't call myself broke at all. I would never call myself broke, even though the last episode was called Lessons from Being Broke. That's just because I knew that's what the fuck I was, but I never affirmed being broke when I was broke, because I knew that your words manifest. So I'm like, I would never say that about myself. So the fact that there is somebody calling me broke while I am actively trying to get my shit together, and every time I would talk to her, she would ask me, oh, how are things doing? And I'd be like, oh, like, I feel like they're getting better. I feel like they're getting better. And I did feel like they were getting better, but then they wouldn't get better because I'd have this conversation with somebody who was talking shit behind my back and calling me broke and all this shit. And who knows what the fuck else she was saying? So when it came time to cut my sister off, I knew that I knew why, and when I did end up texting her and telling her, like, I think we need to distance ourselves, she never responded. She never responded. Now, I didn't block her immediately after I sent that message. I think I waited like a week, and there was no response. And I was like, oh, well, you're done. Sometimes silence is really the best response because it shows you a lot. I feel like honestly that probably was the best way that she could have responded, so that I didn't feel bad for what had to be done. I was like, well, shit, thanks for proving my point. What the fuck? Like, you didn't even try to defend yourself. Like, clearly what I'm saying is true, So, but that happened, I went through a deep, deep depression, okay? Because I was like, damn, like, if my own sister didn't fucking fight for me, if my own mom didn't fucking fight for me, if my own dad didn't fucking fight for me, nobody in my family ever fucking fought for me when I distanced myself from them. That shit hit like a ton of bricks. I was like, damn, like, I'm not important to nobody. Like, what? And that was kind of being the victim, right? I was very much in victim mentality, because it's like, girl, but you cut them off. Like, yeah, but what the fuck? Like, y'all ain't gonna fight? So it's like, I see both sides, but at the same time, it was like, I had to get out of victim mentality. I had to turn off survival mode. And that is when I started Survival Mode Off, which is an amazing workshop, by the way. If you are in victim mentality, you need to check it out at thatsoulglow.com. It is a 7-week workshop, and you'll see me going through all this shit. You'll see me real life talking about the shit that I went through, and we overcome all this shit together. It is an amazing workshop. But in the middle of that workshop was like what I call a gift wave from the universe. And that is when that was when my husband came to me and was like, hey, like, I think I'm gonna make rugs. And I saw him make a rug, and I saw the potential of all the different rugs that we can make, and really, like, it lit a fire in me, and that sparked my creativity again. And I was like, well, I think I want to do it too. Well, actually, no, I was giving him all the ideas of stuff that he could make, and he was like, well, why don't you just do it with me? And that's another sacrifice that I had to make, because after I had the whole thing with my best friend and the business that failed or whatever, I was like, well, that's a lesson that I'm not supposed to do business with anybody. I'm only supposed to have a business with myself. And hell yeah, I included my husband in that shit. I'm like, no, I'm not having no business with you. But I had to sacrifice that mindset. So sometimes it's going to be a physical sacrifice, and sometimes it's going to be a sacrifice of your mindset. And I'll be honest with you, more times than, like, 9 times out of 10, or I should say like 8 times out of 10, the sacrifice is going to be mental than physical. Or honestly, it can be both, but a lot of times it's going to be a mental thing that you have to sacrifice. So I had to sacrifice the mindset of thinking that, oh, I'm only going to do a business by myself, And I let that go. And then boom, we got our business. Now, we have reached another roadblock with this business. Right now, I'm not really tripping because I'm focusing on my spiritual business, and you can't spread yourself too thinly. Otherwise, like nothing's really going to like take off how you want it to. So I'm focusing on the spiritual aspect of everything right now. And I know that the universe is going to give me the green light when it's time to give me the green light and to go balls to the wall with our rug business. These sacrifices that I've had to make have not been easy. One of the things you're gonna constantly be making sacrifices. There's constantly going to be things that you try and you think that you're going to do them forever, and then one day the universe is like, actually, we're done with that now. You know what I mean? So even with this podcast, this is going to be the last episode of this season. So this is officially the end of season 1, and I'm not sure when I'm going to pick back up on season 2, but I know that when I do come back with season 2, I'm gonna have a lot of topics lined up, because right now, like before I made this episode, I was like, what the fuck am I gonna talk about right now, And I don't really like that. Like the whole point of me having this healing hotline podcast was so that I can come on here and that I can have talks that are like healing. But like I wanted it to be like oh shit, like I really got to get this shit off my chest. Like let's talk about it. Let's dive deep into it. So for right now, we're going to end season 1 with this episode, and we'll see where we pick back up when it comes to season 2. But this might be another thing that I have to sacrifice, because sometimes I try to do way too much. And I was gonna make this episode about the importance of knowing your role so that you could stay in your lane, which is essentially like knowing what it is that you're supposed to do so that you stay in your lane. You're not like constantly going in this lane, that lane, this lane. And I think that, I don't know, I guess I just asked my pendulum right here, right now, huh? Might as well. Nope. Damn. I asked my pendulum, am I supposed to keep doing this podcast? And it was like, no. No. So this is, wow, full circle. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry. This is a full circle moment. 10 is, technically they don't count 10 in numerology. It's really just 1 or 0, right? But zeros are like full circle moment, and this is a full circle moment because I'm gonna cry, dude, because this is amazing. Whew. The episode of this podcast is called The Law of Sacrifice, and what am I doing right now? I'm sacrificing this podcast. I'm sacrificing this podcast. And maybe it's so that I can focus on, my rug business and focus on everything else that I want to do, because I'm like a freaking octopus out here and I only have 2 arms. I ain't really got 8 arms like an octopus, okay? I can't be doing everything. But I would like to. Unfortunately, I can't. So I think that is the thing that I'm supposed to surrender this podcast. And I don't even say I think I know now, because I asked my pendulum and it was like, yeah. That feels good though. Like I said, it was really exhausting sometimes for me to come on here and come up with a new episode and stuff like that. But it's been fun. I really like doing this podcast. Honestly though, what I would really like is if somebody invited me onto their podcast, because I'm a generator. So like I would love for somebody to like ask me questions about, I don't know, spirituality or like my journey and my life and all of that. So if you have a podcast, or if you've been thinking about a podcast, maybe you should ask your pendulum if you're supposed to start a podcast, and you should ask your pendulum if you should put me on your podcast for one of the episodes. I don't know, just putting that out there into the universe. But this has been fun. It's been a great outlet for me, but I do see that the time has come to an end for this podcast, and it is what it is, really. It is what it is. I think all these episodes have done exactly what they were intended to do, and that is heal. And I'm getting goosebumps because I'm like, damn, it's bittersweet, but it is what it is. So, one last time, this has been the Healing Hotline. I'm your host, Jessica Trambarger, officially signing out.